is the opportunity.
High fly ball, deep left field. Oh, 27 does it again.
Gone. Fernando Tatis Jr. with a 2-run shot has the Padres on the board. Ball and 2 strikes to Shohei here. Oh, got it! Got it! 33!
Oh, wow. Where did that one go? That's his 11th. Driven out to deep center field. Going back. Springer turning, looking. See ya. Oh, what a shot by Judge. The Yankees lead 1-0.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Free Baseball. It's the podcast where me and Mr. Jake Crumpler, my co-host, talk about baseball and stuff about baseball. It's episode number 38. It's really rapidly approaching 50. I feel like we had like a period where it's like, okay, we're done with this for like 2 months, and we're back. And now we're rapidly encroaching upon that excellent milestone. So thank you for joining us again today. We got a lot to talk about. Not really, because there haven't been too many major moves. I just like saying that. But I think this will be a fun pod because I don't know about you, but I am going to expose my awful ball knowledge later on when we talk about our way too early predictions for the 2022 season, which is obviously now concluded. Got a bevy of very mid moves made in the offseason to talk about. So let's go ahead and kick things off. What do you say, Jake?
Okay.
Okay. Very enthusiastic. Our last few pods have been award centric, so I think it's a good enough time to start it off with back-to-back Edgar Martinez, outstanding DH award winner, Mr. Shohei Ohtani, arguably should have been the MVP in the AL, but obviously he's going to win this now. He's just a freak. Back-to-back wins now for Shohei. Why don't you talk about your guy? You got to see him live. You got to see him live in the last season.
I did get to see him live, and it was awesome. He did DH. He also pitched, and it was one of the best baseball games I've been to just because I got to witness that. But in terms of him winning the Edgar Martinez Outstanding Designated Hitter Award for the second year in a row, it was definitely very deserving. Last year, he hit 46 home runs with a 151 WRC plus. This year, he didn't top that. He was sort of better on the mound than he was at the plate, but he was still so incredible at the plate that it earned him this award. This year, he hit 34 home runs, batting .273 with a 142 WRC plus. Very, very good numbers. It's hard to tell who his competition was. I would think that Yordan Alvarez would have won this award if maybe he DH'd more. I'm going to look it up to see how much he DH'd, but I would have thought that he would have won. So I was sort of surprised to see this. But nonetheless, I think Ohtani is a very good choice. I don't think they're weighing in the pitching, but if they do, then it's a very clear choice. I don't know why I looked him up on Baseball Reference. Anyway, Shohei Ohtani is incredible. There's not much more we can say about him. I think we've been talking about him every single episode the past few weeks. And by this point, I think everybody knows his exploits from the season, both on the mound and at the plate. Yordan Alvarez played 77 games at designated hitter and 56 in left field. So it's evenly split. I don't know. Feel like it could have gone either way. I do think Yordan had a better season at the plate. WRC plus would agree. He had like a 40 points higher in that stat, but I think Ohtani is very, very deserving, and I want him to win all the awards, so it's completely fine with me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think they're potentially factoring in the time that Yordan missed, which even though it wasn't that much, which is still kind of egregious too. I think they're factoring that in a little bit in what this voting ended up being. Probably also a little bit of a makeup vote because Shohei, like, you can make the argument that he's going to be MVP every single year. And since it was such a historic year from Judge, that's just like, okay, well let's give Ohtani something. But yeah, I like this for Ohtani. I think he should win every single award. Gold Glove, Cy Young, MVP. I don't know. Give him whatever you feel like. Nobel Prize, Larry O'Brien Award, whatever you want to give him. So I'm all for it. So give Shohei Ohtani key to the White House, even if you want to. Cool move, though. Nice award. Love Shohei getting the recognition that he very rightfully deserves. I talked about it last pod. Before we move on, I talked about it last pod, and I honestly fear for Shohei Ohtani just getting voter fatigue for winning all of these things, which is
already happened.
I know it's going to get worse though, and it's gonna suck because he genuinely should win everything every year. He's just a freak. So, give us votes. Give me and Jake Crumpler votes.
Yeah, I mean, after last year, I mentioned that I thought he would get voter fatigue. I think even in my way too early predictions that we're going to discuss later, I think I mentioned it on that article, and I was extremely right there because it already started, and which is really unfortunate, to be honest.
Very whack. Very, very whack. Moving on. Off-season transactions. It's me and Jake's. I don't know about you, but I think the off-season I like almost, if not more than baseball. Which is weird to say because I love baseball so much. But there were a couple moves made. None of the huge names have really fallen, depending on how you count a couple of these guys. We'll talk about this first move because I personally love this player. The Pirates signed Carlos Santana to a 1-year, $6.7 million deal, which, funnily enough, is their largest guarantee by the Pirates since they signed Daniel Hudson back in 2017 to a 2-year, $11 million deal. Bob Nutting is a bum of an owner that should have his rights to own a franchise stripped away. If this is the biggest move he has made since 2017, which is now, 5 years? I hate saying that. We're old now. But it's been 5 years since that Daniel Hudson move. And it's a $6.7 million deal for Carlos Santana, who, if memory serves me correctly, he had an okay season, but nothing special because he's just an old first baseman now that really doesn't do a whole lot for you. He had a 1-2 WRC plus and was worth 1 WAR. This is a nothing move, but it's worth talking about because the Pirates are a dumpster franchise.
That was actually 6 years ago, since it was prior to the 2017 season or prior to 2023. So make you feel even older. But yeah, I don't think this is a huge deal. Obviously, you can tell just by the less than $7 million value on that contract. It's also interesting because the Pirates claimed G-Man Choi, or they traded for G-Man Choi from the Pirates or from the Rays. And so they have first base pretty much filled there. I'm sure he's going to platoon with some right-handed hitter, but that sort of leaves Santana as the designated hitter, which is, I don't know, not really a spot you want to be locking up on a young team with a guy that might be he's way past his prime, but a guy that might be, nearing the end of his career. He's played since 2010, so this will be like his 14th year or whatever. Like you said, last year wasn't that great. It was a step up from his previous 2 seasons. 2021, he had an 82 WRC plus, so that was a 20% increase in terms of his offensive production. But it's all sort of related to his strikeout rate increasing over the last few years. He's always been one of my favorite players because of how great he was in my points leagues fantasy teams, because he walked more than he struck out. So like, even if he wasn't an incredible power hitter or contact hitter, he made up for it by never striking out and walking a ton. So he's got a great eye at the plate. Maybe that's what they're hoping for, that he can teach some of the young guys there how to see the ball when it's coming in and then when to swing and when not to swing. But yeah, this has been one of my favorite players for quite some time. I always try to draft him where I can in fantasy, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be making much of an impact for the Pirates. I think that they'll probably play him early on, and then the Pirates will suck, so they're going to trade him again. Last year, he was traded at the deadline too from the Royals to the Mariners. So I think that'll happen again. I think he'll get a shot at playing some in the postseason, but yeah, I don't see him having too much of an impact on the Pirates lineup, and I could easily see him losing his role. I mean, they're not paying him too much, but yeah, it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, that the point you made about the Daniel Hudson being the largest guarantee prior to this one is messed up. It's so stupid. Like I don't. It's just like that's so little money. First of all, for
Right.
a franchise, but also that it's been like 6 years since that. So like that 2 years, $11 million. If you like factor in inflation and the way that spending has gone, like that's still a lot more than what they're spending on this one. So in like the last 6 years or whatever, they've been giving out like $3 million deals, and they've not been good during that time. So like that makes sense. But I really hope they start turning it around next year or the year after that and really start doling out the money, because it's really frustrating, I'm sure, to be a Pirates fan and watch your team just fail to compete because your owner doesn't invest in the team enough to make it good. So like your window for competition is so small.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because if you look at this team, it's built to be a young contender, but a lot of their guys that they have that are their controllable talent that are not O'Neal Cruz, let's exclude him from the conversation. The guys like Brian Reynolds, specifically Brian Reynolds, he's going into, I believe it's his age 28 season. He's 27 now, isn't he?
Yeah, it'll be 28.
And he's still controllable, and it's like this team has been bad the whole time, but they're not gonna move off of guys like this. I know that they just got rid of Newman, right? Kevin Newman.
Yeah.
They traded him to the Reds, and then it's just a weird team. They've got guys like David Bednar who are 27. Their rotation. Ke'Bryan Hayes is what he'll be. This is his age 26 season now, which is strange, considering did he surpass his rookie eligibility in the past year, or was that the previous season?
This will be his third season next year.
Right. It's just a weird team that seems like they're going to be stuck in the mires of being garbage and not like a garbage to be rebuilt into a good team. Mm-hmm. And that's down to Pirates ownership and their front office brass just being terrible. Yeah. And it sucks for Pirates fans because they will not get a good baseball team in that absolutely immaculate mecca of baseball stadium that they have, mm-hmm. PNC Park. It's like one of the most amazing stadiums in all of baseball, and they're just going to be stuck watching garbage baseball. And it's just, it sucks. But moving on.
Wait, do you think you think the Pirates are like the Reds a couple of years ago? Yeah. When they were like looking like they were on the precipice of competing, and then they just tore everything down?
I do think
out of nowhere.
I do think so. I think it's going to be a similar situation. I think that's almost exactly, you hit the nail on the head of what I was thinking. And I just couldn't come up with the thought. I think it is going to be a situation like that.
I sort of see them as the next Orioles, where they're just like right now they're not a great team, but then they sort of surprise people this year. But I could see that also being the Royals or something this year, where they have like, this is like where they show that they're a fun team this next season. Yeah. And then from there, then it starts to get real and they start to compete. I don't know. I see the Pirates and the Royals are in like the same boat right now, where they both are bringing up their young guys and they're about to show like, this is what our future is. This is the year we have fun. And then next year it gets serious and we're going to win.
Potentially. I mean, they have decent guys that are around to be excited about. And a little bit of depth too, which is interesting to see now, because they have, you already talked about G-Man Choi. They have a lot of names that they're going to try to fit in here. They got G-Man Choi. They now have Carlos Santana. They have Miguel Andujar now. That's important to remember. Where are some of these guys going to play? And I think they're stocking up mainly on players that they can potentially try to trade at the deadline. Like you said, Carlos Santana is almost a lock, because the Pirates are not going to be good and they're going to trade him at the deadline. So it's going to be a weird season to watch for the Pirates. But like, even though I'm a fan of a rival team in their division, I want the Pirates to be good. Like, it's a small market team. I typically want small market teams to be good because it's good for baseball. But I don't know. I never have faith in the Pirates to fulfill that at the same time, if that makes sense. But moving on, we'll talk about another poverty franchise. This time it's the Chicago White Sox, and they signed Mike Clevenger, Sunshine, to a 1-year, $12 million deal. And He's coming off the back of a season that was not very good by his standards. He's also been a guy that's really struggled with injury as well and inconsistency in a bigger way. So it's important to remember now that he is entering his age 32 season. You're committing $12 million to a player that's coming off of a season where he was worth less than 1 F4. I believe he was worth 0.5 F4. Yeah, or sorry, 0.4 F4. The 4.33 ERA and a 4.98 FIP, and that's playing in Petco Park in San Diego, which is a major pitcher's park, and he just struggled mightily. Fastball was down, strikeouts were down. He's just I fear for Mike Clevenger, and he's a pitcher that I've always really liked. But I think the White Sox are horribly mismanaged, and at least from a front office perspective, I don't have much faith in the White Sox this upcoming season. What about you?
It should be pretty interesting. I mean, it's not like you're relying too heavily on Clevenger. Last year, he was coming off Tommy John surgery. Like you said, he's dealt with injuries. He had just 1 year where he threw over 126 innings, and that year he threw 200. So maybe that's the outlier. I mean, it's clearly the outlier right now. But last year was his first year back from Tommy John surgery. Not everybody's Justin Verlander. I think there's a chance that he's just, warming up. But this was like very clearly the worst season of his career, and he did not start 30 games. He started only 22, appeared in 23, but it was definitely a different sort of season from him. He also lost a couple of miles per hour off his fastball. So there's a lot missing there, but this rotation is so loaded. It's sort of like he's depth. They have other guys in the minors that I think they can rely on outside, like your namesake Davis Martin. They got Jonathan Stever, Jason Ballou, I guess, probably made a start. I've never heard that name before. I'm not even sure I pronounced it right. Nonetheless, Clevenger is the fifth man in a rotation that is incredibly deep, headed by Dylan Cease and then Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, and Michael Kopech. That's a very, very good contingent of 5 guys right there if you have Clevenger as the number 5. And if you don't really have to rely on him and you have some other young guys that can spot start fill in for him, I think that's like when he's injured, I think that's completely fine. And if he does end up, talking to who's the pitching coach out there?
I'll look it up.
It's the college coach of Giolito.
Ethan Katz.
Yeah, I knew it was a Jewish name, but yeah, he's been really good at turning pitchers around. At least we've seen that with some of the guys in their bullpen, like Reynaldo Lopez and I don't know. I can't even just saying a name. Reynaldo Lopez, but also mostly Giolito is the biggest one that he worked with. I mean, obviously he knows him personally from his time in college, but or maybe it was his high school coach. Nonetheless, he turned Giolito from literally the worst pitcher in baseball to one of the best pitchers in baseball. And so maybe you can have some of that hope for Clevenger. But I don't know. Like you said, the environment's sort of weird around there. Now that Tony La Russa's gone, maybe it's like a totally different vibe. Yeah, maybe it's a totally different vibe. Maybe some guys thrive out there this year because it's such a different environment. It's hard to tell. This team keeps falling below expectations.
Yeah. That's my issue with the White Sox. They've consistently fallen below the expectation that they're supposed to be. And it's kind of getting to the time where it needs to be put up or shut up time for the White Sox. And it's like, are you good? Or are you going to consistently be like mid? What is it? The White Sox also are using this thought process to go in and bring Mike Clevenger in, who's going to be 32 this upcoming season, coming off of Tommy John, coming off of a bad season. And hope that they can throw him in with Ethan Katz and have him fix the situation where they had the perfect opportunity to take Carlos Rodon on a qualifying offering worth, $18.4 million, and they don't take it. He's going to be this season. I believe this season for Rodon, he will be 30. Like, I think this is his year 30 season. And it's just stupid. Like, you look at the comparison now, and it's like, well, you could have had literally by far and away the best rotation in MLB. And now you have Clevenger, who you're basically equating to a $12 million lottery ticket. Like, maybe he'll be good, maybe he'll suck. And then you're going to have to try to replace him with a guy, like you said, from your farm system. And it's going to be a weird situation there. And, the hope is he'll be good, and I want Clevenger to be good. I know there's the questions about his personal life and his personal integrity, which is separate from baseball. I'm not judging the man; I'm judging the baseball player. Which is a weird thing to say because we always do that. But like Clevenger has a chance to be really good back in a division that he always had that most of his career he pitched in. But you're relying on that, and you're relying on a team that has been chronically underperforming expectations with a pitcher that seems to want to do the same. I don't know what to really.
What did he do? Why are people questioning his?
He cheated on his pregnant wife. What do you mean?
He did?
He cheated on his pregnant wife before he got traded.
What the frick?
Yeah, you know that?
I mean, maybe I did. I don't remember that.
I always liked him because of his funky windup and he seems like a hippie because he got the long hair, the tattoos. They call him Sunshine. I mean, but yeah, he's allegedly not a very good guy.
I don't even see that anywhere. I looked up controversy, and it's only about the when he broke COVID protocol with Zach Plesac.
He did that too.
I don't know why I can't. Oh no, I don't know why I can't find it. I mean, Zach Davies did that.
There was a whole big thing about his wife posting it, his ex-wife posting it.
Yeah, that was Zach Davies.
No, this is a different thing.
What? All right. Well, I'm gonna have to look at that later because I totally missed that, and maybe I'll have to let know that
his wife called him. His wife called him out on his wife called him out on Instagram a couple years ago, but right before he got traded. But yeah, I'm just kind of surprised that he got $12 million, and I know it's a 1-year deal, so it doesn't really matter. But I mean, there was no way the Padres were going to give him a qualifying offer. Last season, he was below average. And my issue with him coming off the Tommy John is the fastball velo just cratering. And that's not good for Clevenger because I don't know if you remember him early in his career when a lot of his struggles were there when he was kind of a swing man for Cleveland. And that was before he had the massive uptick in velocity. Do you remember the stretch he had in Cleveland where it's like he was riding 97 to 99 and he was almost unhittable for that hot period in Cleveland right before they traded him?
Right before in 2020?
Yeah, do you not remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, there was a period because you can look at his Fangraphs page and look at how his fastball velo went up straight from 2018 to 19 and 20, where it was he averaged mid to low 90s, and then he hit a stride where it was 95 was the rock bottom floor, and he'd come out and have starts where he'd pump 98, 99. He was electric for a year and a half, very quietly, because he played for Cleveland. And they traded him at the peak of his powers. And now that his fastball velo's down, I'm scared. I'm a little bit worried for him because fastball velo goes down, K percent goes down for Clevenger. Everyone's seen that. You can look at the numbers in the start of his career and then back to last season where he's coming off of Tommy John once again, but strikeout percent's way down. I don't know how confident I am in Clevenger, even if he is a fifth starter. I'm just kind of surprised by the number that he got.
Yeah, I think those are very fair points that a lot of his success is tied to his fastball velo. And then if you look at his pitcher list player page, which has bar graphs and stuff that sort of show where a player stands out, he literally has nothing that stands out great. They'll be blue if they're bad and red if they're good. He has a couple pink ones for fastball velocity and swinging strike rate overall, but the rest of it is not good. So I think he's a pretty average pitcher unless he does rediscover some of that velocity. He does have a pretty crazy windup, so maybe it's just locking everything down in terms of his motion and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree that I wouldn't have too much confidence in him next year, but he's sort of seems like more of a depth piece. And if he does rediscover that potential he showed in 2019 or 2018, then he could really make that White Sox rotation something else.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping for Clevenger. I'm hoping for Clevenger to rediscover that form for him, but I don't know. If you want to look up Clevenger's alleged infidelities, you can look up Monica Ceraolo.
I found it.
Ceraollo.
Not confirmed.
Not confirmed.
But
Alleged.
obviously, who would confirm that? Yeah, it was just
Alleged.
like a tweet that looked, or a Twitter account that looked like it was her, was tweeting some crazy stuff about him. But yeah, you were right.
Alleged. That was a few years ago. Apparently, he cheated on his pregnant wife. I don't know if that's true. Don't like actually quote me on that. But that was
hey, Mike Clevenger, this guy Davis,
Yeah.
he told me.
Me and you, Mike Clevenger, beat me up.
Oh, he would. He
probably would. He's a big dude.
6'4".
On to White Sox news. Former White Sox news. The Astros have signed the last Chicago White Sox MVP, Jose Abreu, to a 3-year, $58.5 million due deal to be their new first baseman / DH. So I think this is a rich get richer kind of move, and it makes me mad. What about you?
Yeah, they did just win the World Series. Like you said, Abreu won the 2020 AL MVP award. So that lineup is just absolutely deadly. They already have Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, Tucker, World Series MVP Jeremy Pena, and then some guys in the outfield and a catcher. But adding Jose Abreu to that contingent just makes it just such a deep lineup. And last year they were running out Trey Mancini and Yuli Gurriel. And so getting Jose Abreu is definitely an upgrade. Last year wasn't his best season, but it was still really good. He sort of lost all sense of how to hit the ball out of the park. He hit only 15 home runs, which is a career low, even including that 2020 season. He hit 4 more home runs that year in like a third of the games. But this year he did bat .304 with a 137 WRC plus, which is the third best of his career in a full season, fourth best of his career in a full season, which is third. I was right. Pretty incredible. He was worth 3.9 FWAR. So that's the third best season of his career as well. So he was really killing it out there. He's a very professional hitter. I think one of the biggest changes that helped him out this year is his plate discipline has been getting really good. Earlier in his career, he was a guy that would strike out around 20% and just never walk, like 5-6% walk rate. And now he's gotten that walk rate up to 9% the past 2 years. And now he's striking out at the lowest rate of his career, 16%. So for guys in points leagues, people playing fantasy baseball with points leagues where you're tracking walks and strikeouts, he could be a really sneaky guy, because I think a lot of people have gotten the impression that he is a guy who doesn't have great plate discipline, but he's really worked on that. He's now going to be entering his age 36 season. So that's usually when guys later in their career, they have to make up for any lack of bat to ball skill or power with a better eye. And a guy like that with such a good eye really fits in well with the Astros. They have always been known to have really good knowledge of the strike zone. Altuve never strikes out. Bregman's one of the best guys in terms of walk to strikeout rate. Yordan Alvarez has some of the biggest power in baseball and doesn't strike out an obscene amount. And the rest of the team is the same. So I think he fits in really well there. But yeah, just a cleanup hitter, a professional hitter like that. He'll be the oldest guy in the lineup. It's a great fit. They've always needed a big first baseman, especially like watching Yuli Gurriel walk out the door. But I don't know. It's hard to say anything bad about this one. It sort of sucks for the White Sox, I guess, to watch this guy that has sort of become one of the faces of your franchise be leaving town to go to one of the better teams in baseball. And now the Astros are really going to continue to be the team to beat. But, they still got to sign back Justin Verlander.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the White Sox, it sucks to see a guy like this leave, but also it kind of does them a favor because now they can actually try to fit Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets into the same lineup without trying to shoehorn one of them into a position they don't know how to play. So that will be good for them. But it does suck to see Abreu leave. And Abreu really, he's just He's just excellent. The only thing that was really down for him last year was his launch angles, posted a career low launch angle. And that's partly got to be the reason really why
Yeah, definitely.
he just
Too many
didn't
ground balls.
he just didn't hit home runs. Because he actually posted the second highest hard hit percent rate of his entire career, which is really strange. So once the Astros kind of work their devil magic on him, he'll be back to hitting 30 home runs this season too.
And he's got the Crawford boxes.
Yes, which is just going to help him so much. So like I said, this is a rich get richer kind of move, and it's frustrating from a neutral fan perspective because you want parity in the league, but also, I mean, Jose Abreu is seems to be one of the game's good guys, and longtime pivotal member of the Chicago White Sox, even when they were terrible. So it's good to see him deserve a chance to really compete for a ring, instead of being mired on the White Sox, who just seem to fade. So
yeah,
good move for them. Onto another AL Central player, Jeimer Candelaria signs with the Washington Nationals, 1 year, $5 million deal. We talked about him on the last podcast. Because he was kind of not really a shock non-tender, I guess, but now he'll get to go play excellent defense over with the Nationals, where he'll basically never see the light of day again, because who on earth is going to watch that baseball team?
Fans of Joey Meneses. But yeah, nonetheless, I think this is a really good signing. I think more so for Jeimer than for the Nationals. The Nationals are not going to be competing next year. It really doesn't matter who they sign. I think, I know that Candelario only has one more year of arbitration eligibility, and obviously that'll be at $5 million. But I think, like, it doesn't really matter who they sign, because they're, like I said, they're not going to be competing. So you sort of just want to see what you can have. And a guy like this that's going to hit free agency, if he does bounce back and they're just like, oh, we did find something in Candelario, they're not going to be signing him back to a multi-year deal or something, because they won't be in competition. They won't be a competitive team heading into 2024. So I think this is really good for Candelario, because it's a great place for him to have a ton of playing time at third base. He doesn't really have any competition over there. Like I said, the Nationals are bad, so it's not like he's got anybody that's going to be like, hey, Jeimer, can I get a couple swings? It's like, it's literally just him. So I think it's a great spot for him to recoup the value that he had in 2020 and 2021, and show that, he does really have a lot left in his bat, because this past year, he, like you said, we talked about him last episode, so anybody that tuned in will have heard this already, but he had an 80 WRC plus last year, batted just 217 with 13 home runs. The year before, he had a 120 WRC plus in 2021, and in 2020 it was his big breakout, 140 WRC plus, but that full season 2021 was where he really showed that he's actually a really solid hitter. He's more of a doubles hitter, pretty solid contact type guy. Doesn't strike out too much, around the league average, but yeah, I think he was just way too aggressive at the plate this year. In 2022, he walked just 6% of the time, which is way below his career average of around 10%. So there's definitely some things he needs to do to get back to where he was, but this is, like I said, this is a great place for him to recoup that value and show that he's actually a guy that deserves a multi-year deal when he does hit free agency again next year. And yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a great lineup to get a bunch of runs and RBI, but I think, it's pretty good for left-handed hitters too. So I think just having that secure playing time on a bad team will allow him to not have too much pressure on him either.
I completely agree. And I think the argument that you made about playing time completely sets up to go into this next guy, which I want to talk about a little bit, even though this was not really a move that a lot of people are going to talk about. And Stone Garrett also signed a major league deal with the Nationals. Stone Garrett, if you don't know him, is basically, he really just now kind of hit the scene. He got a cup of coffee with the Diamondbacks last year, and they did not tender him a contract. He's 26 years old. He's an outfielder / DH. That he hit 28 home runs in 103 games in AAA. He's got a lot of power. He's a solid outfielder. He is 26, so I think that's important to remember. So he's an older guy now, but this is a perfect opportunity for him, because let's face it. I mean, with the bevy of outfield talent that the Diamondbacks have now, there was minimal chance that he was actually going to fit in on their roster. So they didn't tender him a contract. And now he's going to end up landing with the Nationals, who on paper for me, I don't know about you, could potentially have the worst starting outfield in all of baseball, because I think the only one that you are guaranteeing that is going to have a spot in that outfield is probably Lane Thomas. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and he's not even that great.
Yeah, he's not even that great. So you got Lane Thomas, and then look at the other dudes that you have on that roster that will potentially play outfield. You have Victor Robles, who can't hit. You have Josh Palacios, and you got the secret weapon, Andrew Stevenson. So Stone Garrett, he's going to play. He's flat out, he's going to get playing time, and he is going to probably tear it up or be garbage, but that's what you're picking him up for. I mean, he might end up being a lottery ticket, and he might end up being a guy that you can he might not be a star, but he could potentially be a dude that'll hit you 20 home runs. I mean, last season, he had a cup of coffee. He had 27 games, 84 plate appearances. He had 8 doubles in that time, 4 dingers. He scored 13 runs, he had 10 RBI, stole 3 bases. He does not walk at all. Like, just throw it out the window. He walked 3% of the time, struck out 32% of the time. That has to come down, or he is not going to last. But he plays decent defense. He had a 131 WRC plus. Like, I mean, he's a dude that he's a baseball player, and the Nationals can use those. And maybe he'll be good, maybe he won't. But I like what he put up in Arizona in his very brief stint. He was never going to fit in Arizona. And I think Washington is like an ideal situation for him, where there's going to be no pressure. He's going to get playing time and have a chance to iron out some of those kinks. And this is a rock solid pickup for the Nationals. I think it's an excellent move.
Yeah, totally agree with everything you said. Had a lot of success last year, but he's really going to have to turn that plate discipline around. Yeah. You said 3.6% walk rate to a 32.1% strikeout rate. Not only is he going to need to walk more, but he's also going to have to strike out less, because his 131 WRC plus is not sustainable with that type of plate discipline.
No. And if you look at and it's honestly been an issue for a lot of his career too, because he has those same numbers through a lot of levels in his minor league career. He's going to strike out a lot. And that's going to be a big bane for him. The Nationals are just going to have to try to work on that, but you never know. I mean, seemingly they seem like a team that are good at fixing that. I mean, they've developed players like Juan Soto who have excellent plate discipline. Bryce Harper had excellent plate discipline. I don't know off the top of my head what Joey Meneses did last season, but I want to say he has pretty solid plate discipline. It seems like a match made in heaven for him. Yeah, Joey Meneses doesn't walk a crazy amount of time, but he also doesn't strike out that much. So maybe the Nationals think they found another diamond in the rough. But this is worth a lottery ticket, and I think he's a player worth talking about, even though this seems like a minor move. Also has an 80 grade baseball name. Stone Garrett is an awesome baseball name.
Sick.
Hopefully he ends up being good for him.
Yep.
Nationals fans deserve something good after last season.
Come on, they just won the World Series.
Well, yeah, and then everyone left, and now they're a trash can and are going to get sold. And they just watched them trade away the reincarnation of Ted Williams. So, yeah. Highs to lows. It's baseball, everybody. You have anything else you want to say about Stone Garrett? You want to move on to this move that kind of surprised me?
Yeah, let's move on.
Blue Jays hired Don Mattingly, formerly of the Miami Marlins, as their bench coach. This kind of caught me off guard, because I thought he was going to probably either retire or he was just going to get another job as like a team's actual manager. And he's the bench coach now for the Blue Jays. This is very strange.
Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts on this. I just thought it was interesting that a former manager, especially one with as much has such a big profile like Don Mattingly, was moving teams. It'll be interesting to see, what kind of effect he has. I'm sure he won't have much of an effect. I know that the Blue Jays manager was one that took over in the middle of last season, so he obviously doesn't have too much experience. So maybe having a guy like Mattingly, who not only has tons of experience in baseball, but has a lot of experience as a manager there to help him out, will make it an easier transition, make it easy, a nice, easy clubhouse. I mean, that's usually what the bench coach is there, just to like help out the manager and make the clubhouse chill. So maybe he's a fun guy and he just needs a little less pressure out there. But I don't remember him being too great of like a team guy with the Marlins. I don't know if you remember the like Jazz Chisholm stuff where he like wouldn't back him up, like how the whole team was against Jazz and then Don didn't bring the team together. And so like when Jazz would like argue with umpires, Don would just wait in the dugout for Jazz to get thrown out and then go out there just because he has to. Like most managers are running out there and trying to stop their player from arguing so they don't get thrown out. But he wasn't the type of guy that was doing that for the star player. So I don't know how that's going to work out with the Blue Jays, especially as the bench coach who's supposed to be like the guy who is the morale guy. So I'm that's not something I'll be actively watching, but it might be something that plays out later in the season where people are like, what's wrong with the Blue Jays? And then you're like, oh, maybe the team isn't too like mingled together in a morale way because of Mattingly, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're like, whoa, the Blue Jays are like killing it this year. They lost Teoscar Hernandez, but you know what? They got John Mattingly, they got Donnie Baseball back there. So now they're going to be, such a cohesive team.
Absolutely. I saw a funny tweet and it said the first thing that he does when he gets there is he's going to burn the home run jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know really what to think. I did see a pretty cool tweet. This is from Chris Black. He is a producer for and content creator for Sportsnet in Canada. And you can follow him on Twitter at Down to Black. And this is an interesting comparison. And it says through age 23 seasons, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 284 average, 358 on base, 135 OPS. Don Mattingly 322 average, 363 on base, and 139 OPS plus. So both of those are relatively similar. Maybe he's there just to help Vlad. He won a couple Silver Sluggers. Obviously, he was an excellent fielder at first base. Potentially help Vlad there too. But I other than that, I don't think this is much of a move. I honestly just thought Don Mattingly was probably going to retire and just be done with baseball because, he's been around it forever. There's the argument right now about the contemporary Hall of Fame voting that he might have a chance to get in, but I don't know about that either. No clue. Weird move. Yankees legend, now Blue Jays bench coach.
Mm-hmm.
I take that, Isaiah, whenever you come back on here. Devin, too. I think this is time to go ahead and get into the meat of our show, and that's to talk about I don't know if you saw my tweet before the show. A little telling on myself. Yeah, a little telling on myself. That one's going to be fun. Before the season, we made an article, and it was our way too early predictions for the 2022 season. We did our early predictions, and I'll go ahead and spoil it for you and say that I did absolutely horrible. So we're going to talk about our picks and run down through how it went, starting off with the first thing on the article, and it's what team that missed the postseason in 2021 makes it this season. So I'm going to let you kick it off. How about you talk about it, Jake? Yeah,
sure.
You first.
I felt goofy for this one after it was posted because, we'll talk about our World Series predictions as well. Yeah. And the two teams that I put in the World Series didn't make the postseason in 2021. So like those were like easy for me, but I was like, oh, let's choose a third that didn't make it. I was sort of just making it hard on myself. I just had some interesting points about the Detroit Tigers. I thought that because of, the young players that they had coming up in Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson were really going to help out a team that looked a lot better in the second half of the season, and specifically after May 4th, because their first 30 games, they were 8-22, and then the rest of the season, they were above 500. So they actually were a really good team, and like that was not what happened this year. I didn't think they had too much competition in their division either, so I thought there was a shot, but they really didn't have a great season at all. They were one of the worst teams in baseball. I think the second worst team in the American League. And I was completely wrong with that one. And it was a direct result of how terrible their offense was. So that influx of young talent didn't make the difference that I thought it would on the offensive end.
Yeah, that one's a little tough. So Isaiah's not here, but I think I'll go ahead and cover his pick too. He chose the Seattle Mariners, and they obviously made it, which is very
Nice
cool.
pick. Well done.
Good pick. Although the reasons I think are a little funny. So adding Robbie Ray and Adam Frazier to the fold behind a healthy Kyle Lewis and a further developed Jared Kelenic, fans have a lot to be excited about. All those guys, apart from maybe Robbie Ray, didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
So they made it, just not due to what he said. My pick, I went with the easy one. I didn't think about it too hard, and that's what killed me for the rest of these. I didn't think about it too hard. I chose the Toronto Blue Jays, who obviously made it. And kind of got whacked by Mariners. But that's okay.
You were right.
They made it, and that's what matters. And I'm the genius. So Blue Jays made it. Score one for me. Jake's a bozo. On to the next one. It's not going to stay that way, I promise. And it's what's one team that made the postseason in 2021 that misses it this season? Go ahead and start with it, Jake.
Yeah, we had the same choice here. We both chose the St. Louis Cardinals, I think for different reasons. You hate the Cardinals, so that sort of made sense. I wasn't just going to pick the Dodgers because that's not only is it a stupid choice, but you'd be able to see my preferences there. But I chose the Cardinals specifically because they had that crazy 17-game winning streak in 2021 that catapulted them into the postseason. And like they barely made it. They would not have made it without it. And their run differential completely changed after that run. Obviously, their run differential probably would have been a little bit better, even if they went 10 and 7 during that time. But 17 games in a row is absolutely insane. I think that's a franchise record. So that was the crux of my argument, that they had an aging lineup, not a great pitching staff that has been plagued by injuries a lot, and that they were sort of coming off a pretty lucky streak that put them in the postseason, but they ended up making it again anyway.
Yeah. You mentioned in there that they're going to have to really have a lot go right to stack up against the Brewers. And I don't know if it's as much they had to have go right, but it's a lot that went wrong for the Brewers. And the Brewers just kind of imploded in the last year and threw the division away because they had the lead at one point and they just died. It's like they just died at the trade deadline. Hader was gone, over with. Season over, pack it in for the Brewers. And the Cardinals made it. And, I chose the Cardinals and I was wrong. They made it in. Boo. Hate the Cardinals. But, I said the Mets, the Phillies, and the Padres should all figure themselves into the playoff conversation again as well. It shouldn't be an easy path back. And I kind of figured that they'd have to squeeze in the wild card because I also banked on the Brewers being good. And the Brewers sucked and they won the division. And every other team that I said made the playoffs. So it ended up I was wrong, but the reason I had, like all the other ones, they made it. They just made it because the stupid Brewers, who I also hate, imploded. Score one. I would call it 2-1.
I'm 0. I have 0 points.
I'll call it 1-0 then. I'm still a genius so far. So who was our picks for the American League and National League MVPs? Let's go ahead and run that one down as well. Isaiah, for the record, also chose the Red Sox, and they were god awful. So Isaiah
2 for 2.
Isaiah 2 for 2. He's trashing us. So my picks for American League and National League MVPs were Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who finished runner-up the previous season for the AL, and Juan Soto for the NL. And I was wrong on both of these. Imagine that. Vlad took a step back. Juan Soto was fine until he got traded to the Padres, and he was terrible. And we obviously all know what happened with Aaron Judge, and we obviously all know what happened with Paul Goldschmidt now. So I have been trashed on this one.
I would be really impressed if you had guessed either of those. I mean,
yeah, I genuinely did. Isaiah get it? No. Okay. Thank God.
I'm surprised you didn't choose Aaron Judge. That's a very Isaiah thing
too.
to do.
Okay. Who'd you pick, Jake?
I went with Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto as well. So he had another parallel there in choosing Juan Soto. My reasoning for Soto was that he had that crazy 2020 season and just like he's just so good in the on-base department. And I was expecting him to finally have that like batting 340 with 40 home runs season. That wasn't the case. He actually had one of his worst seasons, but it was still really good in terms of the rest of the league. But I just thought, after Bryce Harper won the 2021 NL MVP award, that the next wave of young players would be the guys to take over. So like Tatis and Soto and Acuna would probably be winning the next MVP awards. That was wrong. It was another old guy, an even older guy won the MVP award in the National League this year. So I was wrong there. Juan Soto is going to win an MVP at some point. So I do feel good about making that prediction every single year, but I was definitely wrong there. And then in the American League, I went with Shohei, which, if not for one of the greatest seasons of all time from Aaron Judge, Shohei would have won it unanimously again. So I think that was a very, very fair pick. He finished second in American League MVP voting. So I think that's pretty solid, pretty close to a win there. But yeah, I think he would have won if not for Judge. I think he would have won if he was in the National League too. So I stupid about that one. I think that was a good pick. And then Isaiah agreed and also had Shohei, but then he sort of made that pick look stupid by choosing Tatis, who missed the entirety of the season. But yeah, so yeah, very polar opposites on his picks there.
Absolutely. This was tough, but it's cool to see just how far we've come and how kind of strange baseball is. Let's go on to the Cy Young picks, where I'm going to look like biggest dumb that has ever talked about baseball in the entire world. And Jake's going to look like a quantum brain, big brain genius like me. So we had our picks for American League and National League Cy Young, and I would like to preface this before anyone watching completely roasts me for my American League pick. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick an off the beaten path guy. For my pick, I'm going to do it, and now I look like an idiot. And that's okay. I'm going to own that. I'm going to completely own that. He was bad at baseball. But the previous year...
say the guy.
Yeah, okay. I almost don't want to. But I chose, for the American League, I went off the beaten path and I chose Nathan Eovaldi, who at the time had, kind of middle-of-the-road odds for American League Cy Young. And then for the NL... before the season, I chose Jacob deGrom, and we all know how it kind of plays out with Jacob deGrom, where he just kind of got hurt and really didn't do it. He was still good. He just didn't play that much baseball. Nathan Eovaldi, I would like to preface my choice. If you want to actually go read our article, it is on athleteshub.org. Way too early, 2022 MLB predictions. So before the season, in the previous season, Nathan Eovaldi led the American League in base on balls allowed. And I anticipated the Red Sox being good. He had really good command on his fastball. He led the American League in FIP as well. And then he basically just trashed everybody with his curveball. I honestly thought he would step it up a little bit more and be really good in the American League. And he just wasn't. And it's not that he was awful. He just certainly wasn't good either. So yeah, I looked like an idiot with that. And then deGrom just didn't play enough baseball. But even if he did, he still wasn't going to win because of the guy Jake picked. So he cheated.
Yeah, I felt really good about my pick. I went with Garrett Cole in the AL, which wasn't great. Obviously, Garrett Cole was really good. I'm pretty sure he set the record for the most strikeouts by a Yankees pitcher. So that feels pretty good. But he wasn't the Cy Young award-winning Garrett Cole. I sort of had him as the guy because, I don't know, he just has such great stuff, and there wasn't a ton of competition in the American League. I didn't really see anybody else that stood out to me too much. But in the National League, I had a clear guy that I was putting my stamp on. I was staking my claim to Sandy Alcantara being the 2022 National League Cy Young Award, and then he was. So that's actually, I felt really good about that one. The other week, I had family lunch, and my uncle was there. He has pretty basic knowledge of MLB, and he was just like, oh yeah, did you like see the award winners? Like, who's this Cy Young guy, Sandy Alcantara? And I was just like, oh yeah. He's like, I've never heard of him. I was like, oh yeah, I actually predicted him before the season to win the award. And he was like, oh wow, that's pretty crazy. It's like, yes, it was. It was all based off his fastball velocity and his uptick in strikeout stuff in the second half of the 2021 season, and his ability to go deep into games. And that's what we saw all year long. He led the league by far in complete games and was just the innings eater of innings eaters. And he was just so incredible the whole year. I didn't have him too much in fantasy, especially in the leagues that mattered. But, I felt super great about having so much confidence in this guy winning the Cy Young Award that he just went out and won it unanimously. So that's I felt pretty good about that one.
Oh yeah. This one was like a slam dunk. Complete, not a shot in the dark. And this was tactful and really well done. So congratulations, Jake. It's 1-1. Isaiah, for the record, chose Garrett Cole, who we already talked about, had a good season, but still not quite up to snuff. And then for the NL, he chose Walker Buehler, which was a good pick. And he was one of the favorites like before the season started, but he struggled with injury.
He had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, he had Tommy John. He played 12 starts and only had 65 innings and was not very good in those 65 innings. And then underwent Tommy John surgery, which obviously spelled a premature end to his season. So that one kind of went out the window there. Moving on, our next picks were for American League and National League Rookie of the Year. And I did mine last, and I made weird picks to try to seem smart. And I honestly look stupid on this one too, but I'm still not quitting on my one guy. And my two picks for the AL, I chose Tampa Bay Rays Shane Baz. Shane Baz, honestly, he just didn't play a lot of baseball. And when he did, he still looked nasty like he did in the previous season. He just still gave up home runs, and that was his whole deal. I also chose San Francisco Giants catching prospect at the time, Joey Bart, who was not good at baseball. Very mid at baseball, actually. So I'm exposing myself there. Shane Baz next season, he's winning the Cy Young. I'm going to put it in the article and we do it again. I'm not quitting on Shane Baz. He's the good.
Yeah. Those were some interesting picks. I think Baz was actually one that I didn't even consider. And then when I saw it in the article, I was like, oh shoot, that's actually a pretty solid pick. But yeah, Bart,
he got hurt and he didn't play. And
I know, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. It was a solid pick, and you just got unlucky there. That's like Isaiah with Walker Buehler, but with Joey Bart. Yeah, with Joey Bart, that was a goofy one from the start. I both you and Isaiah chose Joey Bart as the National League Cy Young Award.
Well, all right,
so that would be crazy.
So in the NL, it was weird in the NL because there wasn't really outside of Cruz, which a lot of my thinking in it when I picked and my rationale was that the Pirates were going to keep Cruz down for a long time to the point where he would come in. They did. And I thought he would come in and he would play fine, which he did, but he still didn't warrant any NL of the year or NL Rookie of the Year voting. I honestly figured that Joey Bart would, since Buster Posey retired, he would come in and basically be the everyday catcher for the Giants. And I honestly thought then, since there weren't many other candidates, that he'd be pretty decent enough on what figured to be a good Giants team. I didn't expect him to set the world on fire and hit 35 home runs. I expected him to hit maybe 20 and then play decent defense and win just because he played on a good team. And a lot of boomers vote for these things. And they give it to oh yeah, Joey Bart. He was a starting catcher on a playoff team when he was a rookie, and give it to him for that reason. I didn't expect him to set the world on fire. I want to preface that now. But we all basically ended up being completely and totally wrong outside of Isaiah halfway. So
Joey Bart struck out 40% of the time last year.
Did he really? I had his fan
38 and a half,
but I didn't look at that.
Yeah,
That
he
is
was not. Yeah,
miserable. Oh
he
my
is
god.
he is a long way to go. But
Jesus
my
Christ.
choices were Bobby Witt Jr. in the AL and O'Neal Cruz in the NL. I think anybody that watches baseball knows why I chose O'Neal Cruz. I think he was sort of under the radar before
Mhm.
he made his debut this year and just broke StatCast. I had noticed that. So did many other guys that are pretty in touch with baseball, that he hits the ball really hard. He had a 118.2 mile per hour max exit velocity in his very brief debut in 2021. And that's something you just like, only a small handful of players can even reach that at their height. So he has a lot of power. He's a big guy that plays shortstop, and he had some great minor league numbers. Like you said, he wasn't going to make his debut until later in the season, which is exactly what happened. But then he really showed off everything he did. He has elite speed somehow for a guy that's that big, incredible power. He's got one of the strongest arm in the major leagues right now too. So putting all that together, it would have seemed that he has all the skills to win the award, but he didn't play enough. And then he also didn't make enough contact. So that sort of held him back there. But I think he's got all the potential to be one of the elite players in baseball if he can make some more contact. Bobby Witt Jr. was actually pretty close. I think he finished like fourth in AL.
Fourth. He finished.
Yeah.
He finished fourth, but Bobby Witt Jr. He had a major struggle with the bat for a big period of time. But a lot of people are forgetting that Bobby Witt Jr. in his rookie season on a team that is garbage posted a 20 home run and 30 steal season while playing shortstop as a rookie.
That's pretty good.
Which is very I think Bobby Witt Jr. was like a slam dunk home run pick. Almost everyone expected it to either be J-Rod or Bobby Witt in the AL. And then they didn't factor in because like you, I'm assuming you also didn't think Rutschman was going to play. And then I thought
not enough, at least.
No. And this was I thought Steven Kwan would be a guy that's okay, he's cool. He's a good player, but not like a rookie of the year kind of player. And then Pena had a stupid good season. But yeah, Bobby Witt Jr., he's the literal fastest player in baseball. 20 home runs, 30 steals. He had a 99 WRC plus, which obviously is not good
because he didn't walk at all.
Yeah, that's his big issue.
4.7%.
He refuses to walk. He doesn't strike out that much. It's just and he's got power. That's evidenced. I mean, he had 20 home runs. He hit 30 doubles, a couple triples. He also plays in a cavern.
That's a really good season. I think he would have won the award if not for the
insane other seasons. The Bobby Witt Jr. A lot of people
be like, my Shohei pick.
That's crazy. No, Bobby Witt's a stud.
For
he's
sure.
a major stud.
Yeah, and then Isaiah obviously got one of them right, picking Julio,
J-Rod.
and then got one of them completely wrong, picking Joey Bart. So I don't know what that's
Bowie
4
Jart.
points for Isaiah, and we each have 1.
No, I think it's 3 because he
3
got
for Isaiah.
Well, he got J-Rod.
He got J-Rod, the Red Sox,
he got the Red Sox,
the Mariners.
and then he got the Mariners. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, we're getting destroyed by our part-time co-host.
By a guy who doesn't even do a baseball podcast.
Bowie Jart trashed me.
Yeah.
Not good. Who was our way too early picks for the 2022 World Series, Jake? Who wins?
I felt pretty confident about mine. I went with the Blue Jays versus the Padres. Obviously, both those teams didn't make the playoffs in 2021, and obviously both of them did make the playoffs in 2022. The Padres actually made it to the NLCS, so that's pretty solid. The Blue Jays did not make it too far, but I felt like the additions the Blue Jays made to their rotation alongside one of the best offenses of baseball would carry them, and the Padres also did the same, and that they would maybe even supplement their team a little bit more at the deadline. Both teams were really good this season, just not good enough, and I thought that the Blue Jays would win the World Series with George Springer being World Series MVP, knowing how good he has been in the postseason with the Astros in the past, but that's not what ended up happening, unfortunately for me. But, that seemed like that would have been a really exciting World Series this year.
Absolutely. I also got completely destroyed on my picks, and one of my teams didn't even make the playoffs, which was a weird season.
Yeah, they did.
Did they? Well,
made the wild card round.
Oh, well, yeah, but they got waxed. So my pick for the 2022 World Series was I had the Tampa Bay Rays defeating the New York Mets. I think I might have been on a podcast even when we talked about it, and I think I said that they were going to win 6. I think that's right. I don't know. I have not gone back and rewatched them. But so I would like to preface my pick with the Rays on Corey Kluber being good. Hey, he wasn't. And I also thought that my Rookie of the Year pick, Shane Baz, would also have a major impact on this team because if you like my thought was that Kluber would have a renaissance because he's with the Rays and they get the most out of all their baseball players. Well, he did. And then I thought Shane Baz would form this insane 3-headed dragon now with Corey Kluber, Shane McClanahan, and Shane Baz. And Shane Baz was hurt. So, Wander Franco had a solid-ish season. Randy Rosarena, same thing. Shane Baz didn't really play. Rays ended up being kind of mid, losing to the Guardians in the first round. And then I had them beating the New York Mets, who also lost in the first round. So kind of got destroyed on that. Isaiah, for reference, also did not get it right. He had the Toronto Blue Jays defeating the New York Mets, which did not happen. So, yeah, I don't know. We all kind of blew it there.
Hey, but at least both Isaiah and I chose teams that made the postseason, and so did you, actually. Yeah, we all chose teams that made the postseason, so at least we got that.
That's true. We got close. At least you chose a team that got out of the first round.
Correct.
And then you chose them to lose anyway, so it's like, well, whatever. Yeah. So, and then lastly, we had our 1 bold predictions to make for the 2022 season. And I'll go ahead and kick it off with mine. And I had 2 because I wanted to really hit on both of these. And one of these actually looked like it was really going to happen for a while. And I would like to preface that this came out well before the 2022 season started and in the middle of the lockout. I chose that this would potentially be the first season since 94-95 to actually have canceled games in the regular season due to the ongoing lockout. And this was almost true because they had canceled games in spring training. So half right, not really. But they canceled games in spring training, so that didn't happen. This one made me look like a complete total idiot, but we all had this opinion. Me and you did at least, don't know about Isaiah. I thought that the Yankees were going to miss the playoffs. And I honestly think that if Aaron Judge didn't turn into an alien, probably happens. Because they didn't really, and this was off the back of, they were very complacent now. Like in their offseason, they just didn't do anything. They didn't really make a big splashy signing. Even at the trade deadline, they got Benintendi, who didn't do anything. They just kind of rode the back of Aaron Judge being a freak, Giancarlo Stanton being good, and then their rotation with Nestor and Garrett picking up the slack. Made the playoffs, and then they kind of just got crushed. So, not right there, but whatever. Going to happen next year, though, because Aaron Judge is going to sign not with the Yankees.
Yeah, Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I think he's going to sign. I genuinely think he's going to sign with the Giants.
There we go.
The two Aaron Judge super suitors right there. Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants. I would love that.
Yeah. My bold prediction might have even been worse than yours. Really bad. I had Alec Boehm and Rhys Hoskins combining for 60 home runs and 200 RBI. I don't think they came close. I also had Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler both finishing inside the top 10 of NL Cy Young Award voting. Nola did. I don't think Wheeler did. I think he might have been somewhat close. And then the final thing, the cherry on top, was that the Phillies would still miss the playoffs.
They obviously made the World Series. Yeah. It wasn't too far. They combined for 43 home runs, and I think Hoskins, for the most part, held up closer to his end of the bargain. He had 30 home runs and then Bohm only had like
What
12,
about RBI?
12 or 13. Oh yeah, the RBI thing. Yeah, that's wild. That's ridiculous. 200 RBI did not happen. Bohm had 72 and
They had
Austin,
151.
Yeah, that's a lot more. Than I thought.
Yeah, they didn't quite get there.
You know, Wheeler had a good season too. That guy just gets disrespected.
Yeah, and he also missed some time.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the
realistically,
voting right now.
Realistically, if he pitches more at the level he was pitching at, he probably does finish top 10 in Cy Young.
It looks like Nola finished 4th, so that was pretty good. And it doesn't look like Wheeler got any votes. So there's that.
Yeah. No, if he pitched more, even remotely close to the 2021 season, I think their numbers are really similar anyway. Like he had a 2.82 ERA to a 2.78 the previous season, and a 2.89 FIP to 2.59. He just didn't throw anywhere close to the same amount of innings. I think if he's probably at the 180 to like 190 mark again, he's like probably going to get in like 6th or 7th at least. So I don't think that's the most asinine prediction. That just kind of got hosed by injury like a lot of our picks did.
Yep. It was not the best bold prediction. It was the first bold prediction I've ever done in my life, and it did not
did
not turn out well. Yeah.
Womp.
Isaiah predicted that the Twins would bounce back. They bounced back for a little. They were in first place for a while, but they definitely died. Yeah.
Another. All right. So he said another year of Alex Kirilloff alongside Max Kepler, Miguel Sano, and Josh Donaldson. Well, first off, Josh Donaldson did not play for the Twins.
Yeah. Kirilloff was injured the whole year.
Yeah, Kirilloff was injured the whole year.
Max didn't even play? Max Kepler was good. Max Kepler was the only one.
Max Kepler is always good. Miguel Sano is not good at baseball. He actually posted almost -1 F4.
Yeah, Kepler was worth 2 F4 in 115 games.
Miguel Sano was almost worth -1 WAR, and he only played 20 games. It's not good.
Oh, are you sure?
How much did he strike at? 70% of the time.
Oh, that would be
35% of the time. That's not good.
Half. Yeah. So no, yeah, not the greatest bold prediction. Bold predictions are hard. They're supposed to be. You're supposed to be right about like 10% of the time. So I think it's good that none of us were right.
We tried. We'll do another one of these articles for the 2023 season later on. So I guess you'll just have to keep watching us to see how wrong we'll be at the end of the 2023 season. And on that note, I'm tired of looking stupid. I don't know about you.
I look stupid every day. I just walk around looking like an idiot. So
sounds like a personal problem, man. You got to throw stuff there and go. I think it's high time bringing it closer.
Yes, high time. It's 4:20. Just kidding. Yeah, we've got 7:52 here. Yeah, we're bringing the closer segment back. Usually we miss it just because I run out of time to put it together because it takes around 20 minutes or so. But yeah, we've got a new closer in to close out this podcast. Let me put up the banner, and we've got JJ Putz. This is an exciting one. He's got a cool name. This is a guy that I remember pitching, and he's got a pretty interesting career that lasted 12 seasons from 2003 to 2014, during which he played with the Mariners, the Mets, the White Sox, and the Diamondbacks. He was drafted 3 times, first by the White Sox in the 3rd round of the 1995 draft. I guess he decided he wanted to go to college because then he was signed by the Twins, or drafted by the Twins in the 17th round of the 98 draft. And he was just like, whoa, bro, I was drafted in the 3rd round. You can't let me drop to the 17th. And then the 3rd time in 1999, he was drafted by the Mariners in the 6th round. So maybe he should have taken that first one, but also maybe it was a good idea for him to get that college experience. He debuted a few years later in August of 2003 against the Blue Jays, during which he covered 5 outs, allowing just 1 hit and 1 walk, no earned runs, and striking out 1 batter. JJ Putz only appeared in 3 more games in his debut season, but he did feature his upper 90s fastball and a lackluster slider, which was his secondary pitch. And he was nicknamed the big guy let me pull up.
Sick
I
nickname.
forgot to do this earlier. Yeah, I forgot how tall he was. So I'm going to pull it up. JJ Putz was 6'5", 250. Yeah, that is
He's
a big guy. So it's a good nickname for him. Then in 2004, his first full season, he had a 4.71 ERA across 63 innings pitched with only 9 saves, but it was a good start because then he kept it going in 2005 with a 3.60 ERA across 60 innings pitched, but he only saved 1 game. Prior to the next season, the 2006 season, the Mariners' current closer, Eddie Guardado, taught Putz to throw a splitter. And so Putz just completely abandoned his slider and made that splitter his primary secondary pitch, the pitch that he would turn to outside of his upper 90s fastball. And then he really took off from there. He became the full-time closer for the Mariners in 2006, during which he tossed 78 and a third innings pitch, striking out 104 batters, the most of his career. He had a 2.30 ERA and a 0.92 whip that season and saved 36 ball games, but then he one-upped it the next season and had the best season of his career in 2007, during which he made his first and only All-Star team. I think he closed out the game, or at least he got a save opportunity. I wasn't quite sure if he blew it or not. He led all of baseball with 65 games finished across 71 and 2/3 innings pitched. He had an incredible 1.38 ERA and a super low 0.70 whip and saved 40 ball games. Very good. He set the Mariners record for consecutive saves in a season with 30, and he finished 13th in AL MVP voting and also became the first Mariners reliever to win the Raleigh's Relief Man of the Year award. He took a step back the following season in 2008, pitching to a 3.88 ERA across 46 and a third innings pitched, saving only 15 ball games, and then was traded to the Mets prior to the 2009 season. That was the next one. There he struggled, which is confusing for me because I don't know if you were playing MLB The Show back then, but my first MLB The Show game was 2009 with Dustin Pedroia. I think that was who was on in 2009. That was my first MLB The Show game, and JJ Putz was the highest ranked reliever, highest rated reliever. He was like a 96 or something back then, and he was on the Mets. So I, like, in my head, since I haven't gone back and looked at JJ Putz until now, in my head he was like an incredible reliever. Yeah, for the Mets though. Like, I remember that he played for the Mariners. I remember that he played for the other teams, but I always thought, oh yeah, JJ Putz, he was just an incredible reliever for the Mets. Well, that was not the case. That rating was completely based off what he had done previously with the Mariners, because with the Mets, he was absolutely terrible. He pitched to a 5.22 ERA across 29 and the third innings pitched with only 2 saves. I'm sure he only pitched that much because they were like, this guy cannot get anybody out. And the Mets decided to decline his club option prior to the next season. So they had a chance to keep him, and they were just like, no, this guy sucks. So he signed a 1-year, $3 million deal with the White Sox, and he immediately got his mojo back. I don't know if it was the lights in the big city got to him or whatever, but he was great with the White Sox, pitching to a 2.83 ERA across 54 innings pitched and saving 3 ball games. He set the White Sox franchise record with 25 consecutive scoreless outings, which is pretty cool. He's got a couple records to his names in the Mariners and White Sox organizations. And then after that brief stint with the White Sox, he signed a 2-year, $10 million deal with a $6.5 million club option to go to the Arizona Diamondbacks. He had a few more electric seasons with the Diamondbacks before calling it in a career. 2011, he pitched 58 innings with a 2.17 ERA and a 0.91 whip and a career high 45 saves. 2012, he kept it going across 54 innings pitched, 2.82 ERA and 32 more saves. He had 6 more saves in 2013, but pitched only 34 innings, but he still had a really good 2.36 ERA. During the 2014 season, he wasn't that great. I think he had a 6.59 ERA. Yeah, it doesn't sound too good. Across 13 innings, and he was released, I think, in June of that season. And that would be the end of JJ Putz's career. And during that career, it saw him rack up 13.1 Baseball Reference WAR across 562 and 2/3 innings pitched, striking out 599 batters with a 3.08 ERA, a 1.15 whip, while racking up 189 saves, which is good for 58th all-time on the career saves leaderboard. And so, yeah, that's it. That's JJ Putz closing out our podcast. Do you have any closing comments regarding baseball in general or JJ Putz?
No, I'm glad he could put our podcast to bed.
Oh, that was awful.
Yes, it was. It was terrible. You know, join us next week for Comedy Hour. on episode number 39 of Free Baseball. We do this every week at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Every week. What is it?
What is that music?
Someone slapping in your house?
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, thought I was losing my mind. I had his baseball reference page open and it started playing some music loud
That was
as
just
hell in
an
my ears.
ad?
Yeah, it was awful.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
join us next week for number 39, episode number 39 of Free Baseball. We do this every week at some point. Probably Wednesday. Just join us, whatever. But you can check us out on Twitter and we'll tell you when we're going on. You can follow me on Twitter at DVSBird. It's right next to my name, and it's at the bottom, DVSBird. It's just like my name. It's crazy. You can follow Jake Crumpler at Jake Crumpler. It's just like his name. That's crazy. Read all of our stuff. We're going to put out more articles that we'll talk about on the podcast at theathleteshub.org that you can follow on Twitter also at athleteshub. Got cool NFL gambling articles like that are going to come out tomorrow, like picks for the week. All sorts of stuff, all sorts of sports content, baseball stuff when it's happening, everything. And the best part about Athletes Hub is we are not guys that are slaves to sports media. We are guys that are sports lovers like you. We just watch sports, talk about them. They're our lives, and we like talking about them with people that are fans too. So just reach out to us and talk to us on our socials, and we're always down to talk baseball. Anything you want to add, Jake?
No,
you want to plug?
Well said. Yeah, obviously on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. You can read my writing at pitcherlist.com as well as baseballhq.com and theathleteshub.org. So hopefully be writing a lot more in December. I think I didn't write a single article in November. I've had new responsibilities at work, so that's the main reason, but also the less reasonable reason is Pokemon. So that's what I've been spending my time doing. So that's what I'm about to go do now. Actually,
make sure anybody that's watching don't spoil anything about the Pokemon game for Jake.
Yes,
you'll get very upset. But yeah, thank you for watching and spending your time with us. I think that's it for today. And we'll catch you next time.
Smell ya.